Hi, I welcome you all to MedMadness. So last session we did baroreceptors. I hope that session is super easy for you. And now we are going to see about autonomic nervous system. And obviously this is one of the toughest chapter in a medical student's career because it's difficult to visualize. I have found out a solution for you in this session because if you learn the location of the sympathetic and parasympathetic receptors and the action of those receptors, so there's 2 points: location of receptors and the action of those receptors. This chapter is going to be very easy for you and you are ready to move into the pharmacology. Okay, let's dive into the session. Okay, so how I plan this session is: number one, I'm going to give you some overview regarding the autonomic nervous system, and number two, I'm going to give you some mind map in order to have a better memorization of the location of receptors and action of receptors. Okay. The nervous system of our body can be classified into autonomic nervous system, which is not under our will. We cannot control the autonomic nervous system, our brain does. For example, take the heart rate. Can you tell your heart, hey heart, keep the heart rate at 80 per minute or 70 per minute or 100 per minute? No, you cannot say that. It's not under our will. Can you tell your digestive system that, hey, I'm going to the gym today, I'm going to take 5 eggs today, I want the full proteins in those eggs to be into my blood? Can you say that? No, the digestion absorption is not under our will. It's automatically controlled by our brain. The same, for example, you're going to the gym and you want a bigger biceps. Can you do that? Yes, you can. You can build a bigger biceps. You take up your rod or you do biceps curl alternates and you grow up your biceps. That is somatic nervous system. It's under our will. It's voluntary. Okay, we'll see that. So autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. And number one, involuntary. It's not under our will. And somatic is voluntary. And number two, I've simplified this point. Instead of thinking like heart, genitals, urinary bladder, blah blah blah, just keep it simple. Autonomic nervous system innervates your cardiac muscles and smooth muscles. The cardiac muscles and smooth muscles. That's it. Your heart, uterus, urinary bladder, everything comes under this point. The smooth muscles and the cardiac muscles. And number two, the somatic nervous system innervates your skeletal muscles. Very important. Okay, so 2 points. One is the involuntary action and innervates your smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. Okay, now the autonomic nervous system is subcategorized into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic and parasympathetic is classified mainly based on the receptors they innervate. So what are the sympathetic and parasympathetic receptors? You know what is receptor? For example, this is a cell. A receptor is a protein which is, when activated, it brings about some changes inside the cell. That is a receptor. So what are the sympathetic and parasympathetic receptors? So sympathetic receptors, alpha and beta receptor, these are sympathetic receptors. And parasympathetic receptors are muscarinic and nicotinic receptors. And the alpha can be alpha 1 or alpha 2, beta can be beta 1, beta 2 or beta 3. Muscarinic can be M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, so on. So this is the basic you need to understand: M1, M2, M3. And nicotinic, you have M for muscle. Remember, like M for muscle. N. I will tell you the location of the receptors. Nicotinic M is innervated by nerves that comes under somatic nervous system. That is, the nicotinic M is present in your skeletal muscle. I'll come back to that later. Okay. What are the neurotransmitter? What is a neurotransmitter? So this is a nerve ending. Okay, so the neurotransmitter is released from the nerve ending that acts on a cell. So these are the receptors and the neurotransmitter acts on the receptor that is present in the cell and brings about the action. So what are the neurotransmitter that comes under the sympathetic nervous system? Norepinephrine, very important, norepinephrine and acetylcholine. And parasympathetic is only acetylcholine, and somatic nervous system is again acetylcholine. So norepinephrine, remember, sympathetic nervous system. Acetylcholine, remember, parasympathetic nervous system. Also acetylcholine plays a minor role in sympathetic nervous system. Clear? Okay. I want to give you one anatomy point regarding the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. Which nerve carries the sympathetic nervous system? T1 to T12, that is the thoracic sympathetic nerves, and lumbar L1 and L2. So from T1 till L2 you have your sympathetic nerves coming off from the spinal cord, and the cranial nerves, I mean the parasympathetic nerves, is carried over by 3, 7, 9, 10 cranial nerves, 3, 7, 9, 10 and S2, 3, 4. These are the parasympathetic nerves in our body. Okay, now regarding location of receptors, I'm going to give you some mind map to memorize the location of receptors. Okay, so obviously you have seeing some blood vessel and some nerves innervating it. First we'll see about alpha 1 and alpha 2. Now you have to locate alpha 1 and alpha 2 here in this picture. You're going to locate alpha 1 and alpha 2 in this picture, remember. Okay, so alpha 1, able to guess it? The alpha 1 is here. The alpha 1 is the smooth muscle cells of a blood vessel. So this is the smooth muscle cells, and this is the endothelial cells. This endothelial cells, the smooth muscle cells. So this is the blood vessel. So alpha 1 is present in the smooth muscle cells of blood vessels. Okay, later I will tell you the action. And now alpha 2, where is alpha 2 is located? Here. So it is here. What is this? Presynaptic nerve terminal. So this is the synapse. So this area is a synapse. This is presynapse. So in the presynaptic nerve terminal, this alpha 2 is present. Just remember the location by now. I will tell you the action later. Okay, let me come back to the beta 2 and M3 later. Okay, now coming on to beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3. Now you know alpha 1 and alpha 2, and now beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3. Okay, so beta 1. Now there is an easy way to remember this. Beta 1, remember one heart, and beta 2, two lungs, one heart and two lungs. So beta 1 is present in your heart and beta 2 is present in your lungs. Where in heart? You know, this is SA node, this is AV node, this is the atrial muscles, ventricular muscles. Here you will be having your Purkinje fibers, blah blah, etc. And beta 1 is present the SA node, the AV node, the atrial muscles, the ventricular muscles, and here your Purkinje fibers. You have beta 1 in the heart all over. Where is beta 2? Where is beta 2? Beta 2 is in the smooth muscle cells of your lungs. So the beta 2 is present in your smooth muscle cells of your lungs. I'll tell you the action later. Okay, and now beta 3, remember beta 3 is in your adipose fat cells. Remember beta 3, we'll talk about the beta 3 receptors more in biochemistry. Beta 3 is very important, which is present in your adipose cells or say fat cells. Okay, now coming on to the parasympathetic receptors M1, M2, M3. M1, M2, M3. M1, where is M1, M2 and M3? Remember M1, one for brain, the super brain 1. Can give some rank 1 to the brain, something like that. Okay, M1 is in the brain, which plays a very important role in memory. When you are in calm state, remember, you can memorize very easy. You will be in a parasympathetic world. Remember the night before the exam, where when you are very too anxious about the exam and your heart rate increases, so at that time you cannot memorize much, am I right? So the parasympathetic nervous system is very important for the memory. M1 for memory in the brain. Okay, M2, where is M2 and M3? Remember, M2 is present in your SA node and AV node, mainly in the heart. M2 here, SA node and AV node. And M2 doesn't innervate like beta 1. Beta 1 is all over the heart, that is in the cardiac muscle cells it is present. But M2 is mainly present in your SA node and AV node, and very limited quantities in atrial muscles or ventricular muscles, very limited. So remember, M2 is present in the SA node and AV node. Okay, and M3, where is M3? M3 is in your lungs. Where in lungs? Around the smooth muscles of a glands. Remember, glands. Why that is important? Around the smooth, for example, this is your gland. For example, this is your gland, and this is your smooth muscle cells of a gland. Okay, remember the orange pulp. Orange pulp. What if you press the orange pulp? The juice is poured out. Am I right? So the same. So if this smooth muscles constricted, the secretions are poured out. So what is the important receptor that is present? M3. Okay, remember we have to talk about the autonomic nervous system in the eye. In the eye, these muscarinic and alpha receptors are very important. We'll deal with that in separate session. Okay, now concentrate only the most important basic. Okay, autonomic nervous system of eye will deal with the separate session. And M3, okay, for secretions. Remember, M3 for secretions. M3. Can I add one more picture? Okay, so what I have said till now, that is beta 1 is present in your heart, SA node, AV node, atrial ventricular muscles, and beta 2 in your lungs, M1 in the brain, M2 in the heart, M3 again the smooth muscles of a lungs, and also not only lungs, smooth muscles of a uterus, urinary bladder. Remember, not only M3 present in the lungs, but it is present in smooth muscles. Remember, M3 is present in the smooth muscles. Let me write that. M3 smooth muscles. M3 for smooth muscles, for example, uterus or urinary bladder, your lungs, etc. Okay. Now, I'm going to add one more picture here. What is the structure? Kidney. Yes. So, in the kidney, beta 1 receptors are very important. Very important. Where in the kidney? Do you remember? JG cells. Juxtaglomerular cells that secretes renin that secretes renin into the circulation, that acts on angiotensinogen. Do you remember that pathway? Renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Here the beta 1 receptors are very important, present in the JG cells. So during sympathetic activation, renin is released into the circulation. Makes sense, right? Okay, very important point about the blood vessels. Is beta 2 and M3 present in the blood vessels or not? Beta 2 and M3. Do you have beta 2 and M3 in the blood vessels? Yes, obviously in the blood vessels you have beta 2. Again, in the smooth muscle cells of a blood vessels, your beta 2 is present. Beta 2 is present in smooth muscle cells of a blood vessels. But note that I have not put any nerves here. Have you seen that? So alpha 1, I said nerves innervating alpha 1. Do the nerves innervate beta 2? Very important, take it down. Beta 2 is non-innervated, which means the neurotransmitter that is released from the nerves cannot stimulate beta 2. Very important point, because later we are going to study about norepinephrine and epinephrine. Adrenaline, you know, hormone that is released from adrenal medulla. It is released into the circulation and it acts on beta 2. So the adrenaline acts on the beta 2 receptors and dilate the blood vessels. Norepinephrine that is released from the nerves cannot stimulate beta 2 because beta 2 is not innervated. So the norepinephrine cannot stimulate beta 2, only your adrenaline. This point is very important to understand pharmacology. We'll deal with that later. Okay. And where is M3? M3 is present. That is, does the blood vessels have parasympathetic innervation? Yes, M3 is present in the endothelial cells. Okay, so here you have your M3. So the M3 is present in the endothelial cells. It is not innervated. It is not innervated by nerves like the beta 2. So anything like acetylcholine or bradykinin, for example, say your acetylcholine or bradykinin can stimulate this M3 and bring about vasodilation. Now we'll talk about the nicotinic receptors and then we'll go to the action. So what we have discussed so far: alpha 1 in the smooth muscle cells of a blood vessels, alpha 2 where in the presynaptic nerve terminals, beta 1, remember one heart, beta 1 is in the heart, beta 2 in your lungs, smooth muscle cells of a lungs, smooth muscle cells of a blood vessels, very important, it's not innervated, beta 3 in your adipose tissues, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, alpha 1, alpha 2. M1 is in your brain, M2 is in your heart, and M3 in your smooth muscle cells of all over the body like lungs, uterus, urinary bladder. Remember M3 for secretions. Clear? Okay. Now nicotinic M and nicotinic N. The final. Nicotinic M. Remember M for muscles. You can remember M for muscles. Skeletal muscles. So this is a skeletal muscle. Here you have the nicotinic M receptors. Somatic nervous system. Remember your biceps. Okay. So this is your nerves that innervates nicotinic M receptor. So this releases acetylcholine that acts on the nicotinic M receptors. Somatic nervous system. Nicotinic N receptor, very important. What is the structure? So this is the ganglia. So what is the receptor that is present in the ganglia? Nicotinic N receptor that is present in the ganglia. Remember sympathetic chain, you have a lot of ganglia. Nicotinic N. What is the structure I have drawn here? Modified ganglia. What is a modified ganglia present in your body? Yes, you are right. Adrenal medulla. You have nicotinic N receptor here, which is when this nicotinic N receptor is stimulated, there is release of norepinephrine and epinephrine mainly into the circulation. Easy? Okay. I hope you are very good up to this. And now we are going to study the action of these receptors. Friends, to study the action of the receptors, it will be very easy for you if you learn the second messenger in detail. If you want, we can go over a second messenger session in a separate class. Okay, this is going to be outline of a second messenger. Once you are good in the second messengers, it is easy for you to understand the action of a receptors. Once you understand the action, that's it, you finish. You apply some drugs, you memorize some drugs, the full autonomic nervous system is going to be very easy for you. Okay, if you want to understand the action of these receptors in a very simple way, first think of alpha 2 and M2. I'm highlighting the alpha 2 here, the alpha 2 and M2. So think of alpha 2 and M2. So these are inhibitory receptor. That is, when these receptors are stimulated, they bring about the inhibitory actions. Others bring about a stimulatory action. If you remember this, the action is going to be very easy for you. Okay, so remember the alpha 2 and the M2 are GI coupled receptors, which means that decreases the cyclic AMP and brings about an inhibitory action. All the others are stimulatory action. What about beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. So all these receptors stimulatory, that is GS couple, that increases your cyclic MP, and brings about a stimulatory action. Okay, and all the others except except that I marked here, all others are GQ coupled, which means there is increase in calcium inside the cells. What happens if calcium inside the cells increases? For example, take the blood vessels, the smooth muscle cells around the blood vessel. If calcium is increased inside, increased contraction, so vasoconstriction. Okay, so GQ. For example, M3, it is present in your smooth muscle cells. So the smooth muscle cells constrict, secretions, constriction, M3, alpha 1 again vasoconstriction, like that. So action of receptors, alpha 2 and M2 inhibitory action, that is GI couple, that decreases your cyclic MP, and beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, everything GS couple, that is increasing your cyclic MP, and alpha 1 GQ coupled, M1 is GQ, M3 is GQ, all increases calcium inside the cells. Very easy, right? Now one more last point. Now when you talk about the nicotinic receptors, it is ligand gated channels, associated with ligand gated channels. For example, this is a cell, this is a ligand gated channel, and acetylcholine is a ligand here. Ligand is like a key, so this is a lock, this is a key. So the acetylcholine comes and sits on the ligand gated channels, and this opens up and helps in the transmission of ions. So this is ligand gated channels, nicotinic M and nicotinic N, or ligand gated channels. Remember, this is present in skeletal muscles and this is present in ganglia. Okay, now you have understood the location of the receptors, you have understood the action of receptors. If you combine these two, you finish. Okay, let us see that. Okay, this is going to be a very good recall chart. Now you keep in mind the location and the action. Okay, you can answer many of the questions. Pause the video or take it down and you try it by yourself. Okay, and now the alpha 1 receptors, where I said it is present in smooth muscle cells of a blood vessels. What is its action? GQ coupled, that is increase in calcium, so it causes vasoconstriction. Good, you get it? That's very good, awesome. Okay, and alpha 2 is in the presynaptic nerve terminals, that is an inhibitory action, that is it decreases the release of neurotransmitters. For example, your blood vessels, okay, the blood vessels innervated with sympathetic nerves, the norepinephrine is released actually. What if there is decrease in the release of norepinephrine? That results in vasodilation, because the alpha 2 can inhibit your calcium channels in the presynaptic nerve terminals, that inhibits your norepinephrine release, that results in vasodilation. In your SA node, AV node, atrial muscles, ventricular muscles, so there is increase in your heart rate and increases in your cardiac contractility, so your heart pumps at greater effect and there is increase in the heart rate. Beta 2 in the smooth muscle cells of a blood vessels, remember it is non-innervated and brings about vasodilatation. Okay, we have to see it in detail. Second messengers, if you understand this point, is going to be very easy how it vasodilates. Okay, by now just remember vasodilation, beta 2 for vasodilation, and in your lungs it is present, right? So bronchodilation. And what about M1, M2 and M3? M1 I said for memory in your brain, and M2 is in the heart, so it decreases heart rate. Can it have M2 have action on contractility? Very minor role. Okay, so I'm not writing it here, very minor role. Okay, so remember, decreases heart rate. M2 decreases your heart rate. And M3, what is action of M3? Smooth muscles constriction. So smooth muscle constriction, and very important, remember, smooth muscles is present around the glandular cells. So secretions, this point is very important. Okay, and now I hope you have understood completely the autonomic nervous system. I'm going to give one very important point and final point that is going to be a bridge for your pharmacology sessions. For example, this is your essay note. You know that essay node has sympathetic as well as parasympathetic nerve system. Okay, this is your essay. I'm giving a drug that blocks your sympathetic nerves. Sympathetic nerves. What happens to the heart now? There is a decrease in the heart rate. Why? Because the parasympathetic nerves dominates here. Because your sympathetic nerves are blocked. So there will be decrease in the heart rate. There will be decrease in the heart rate. And vice versa. If I block the parasympathetic nerves, your sympathetic nerves dominates and there is increase in the heart rate and the contractility. Very simple, right? So you have blockers. You have blockers, sympathetic blockers, beta 1 blockers or M2 blocker, or you have agonist, M1, M2 agonist, beta 1 agonist. If I give some agonist, for example, I give beta 1 agonist, there is increase in the heart rate. Agonist action means it increases the action of the receptors, increases the action of beta 1 receptors, agonist. Or M2 agonist, it decreases heart rate. One side agonist, the other side is a blocker. I will give you one more example. Okay, for example, this is your blood vessels and there is alpha 1 here, beta 2 here. Okay, if I block the alpha 1, the beta 2 action dominates. If I block beta 2, the alpha 1 action dominates. So if I give a blocker to alpha 1, your blood vessels vasodilate. If I give a drug that blocks your beta 2, the blood vessels constrict. Very simple, right? Okay, a final overview. We are in the end of a class. Okay, we have sympathetic and parasympathetic system. What are the sympathetic receptors? Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, and parasympathetic M1, M2, M3, and nicotinic receptors. If you talk about the alpha 1, it is in your blood vessels, vasoconstriction. Beta 2 is present in the blood vessels, vasodilation. So alpha 1, constriction. Beta 2, dilatation. Beta 1 is in your heart, one heart. It increases your heart rate, increases the contractility. Beta 2 is in your lungs, that bronchodilates. Remember, beta 2 is also present in the blood vessels, vasodilate, and your lungs bronchodilate. Okay, M1 is in your brain, that is important for the memory. M2 again is in your heart, SA and AV node, decreases heart rate. And M3, what about M3? In your smooth muscle cells. For example, constriction of uterus, bronchoconstriction, secretions are increased. Very important, secretions are increased. Clap hands for yourself. You have completed autonomic nervous system. See you with more interesting videos.